Hello, everybody. Welcome to School's Out 2024 Middle School League, put on by Romancing the Stones. My name is Robert. I am joined in the booth by Ty. How's it going, Ty?
Very good. How you doing?
I am doing great. Excited for another league week of middle school here.
Yes. Getting near the end. This is these matches start to mean a lot more as we get close to the top 8. So,
oh yes,
I think for both matches tonight, the winners are probably going to secure a spot in the top 8, pending the final round.
Yep.
In this first round, this first matchup, the loser is probably going to be struggling to get into the top 8, but we'll see. There's a lot on the line here.
That's exactly how I felt. I ended up picking up a loss this round myself, putting me squarely out of top 8 range at 3 losses now. And I knew it was going to be a struggle even if I could win out. But these players here have done well so far. Both 3-1. A win here definitely puts them in good shape for top 8.
Yeah, we've got Stu here on the left. He's playing a blue-white counter rebel deck, which is a little surprising. Most people would see him on red decks. I think this is the only second league he's played where it wasn't his red deck wins deck.
Specifically his version of it, yeah.
One time he had it all blue-green madness, like all RTS modified cards, but this is the second time he's trying to catch people by surprise.
Yeah, he's been, he's played it at some of our local weekly, middle school meetups, and he said he's liked it a lot, and he finally took the time to sleeve it up. I think he wanted to try to qualify with the mono red deck last league, and it just did not work out at all for him. So, that was the sign to do something different here. But he's going to start off with a non-mountain and pass the turn.
Yeah. On the right, Robin's playing a blue-white deck as well, but this one is a Replenish deck with Parallax Wave, Parallax Tide, and Opalescence. He's got a few interesting choices that may pop up, but I do want to draw attention to the beautiful lands that Stu is playing. Both of those are 5th edition lands, a Plains and an Adakar Wastes. Truly the best art for white border.
His mana base is beautiful. I got to see it in person last week when we played, and he defeated me. But it was beautiful to be sure. Okay, so Robin's gone from 1 mana to 4 mana this turn. And we're going to see turn 2 Opalescence already.
Turn 2 Opalescence is interesting because it definitely puts the onus on Stu to find an answer for it before he can deploy the Parallax Wave.
Yep.
I would have thought, if he had the wave, he probably would have played that first just to stop the rebels. But at the same time, maybe play the Opalescence is better because it's a better bait spell to draw out a Seal Cleansing.
I think it doesn't lose this way. Doesn't lose to Sword to Plowshares. I think a little bit. Well,
I don't think you lose to Swords of Plowshares as long as you have a counter on your Parallax Wave. So it just like I think if you have 2 Opalescences, maybe this is if he had just led with the Parallax Wave and Stu had the Seal of Cleansing, he would have just blown it up right away.
Sure.
But Stu seems to have missed his 3rd land drop, which is not what you want when you have a Rebel deck.
No, especially when
all of your land drops.
Yeah, and specifically, he's only got Plains and a blue source, so he can't. His counterspell suite does not work on that mana combination. And we're gonna have a problem here if this Parallax Wave resolves.
That's Parallax Tide.
Parallax Tide. My bad.
Yes. Yeah, he's got the Sky Scout Expanse and the Mox Diamond to get the 2 blue he needs. The Mox Diamonds are pretty interesting in this deck.
Yeah.
I've seen people go back and forth on it. It seems a little like you'd always want to have Mox Diamond because you don't need a ton of lands to operate, especially when you have Ancient Tombs.
Yep.
But at the same time, when you have Ancient Tombs in your deck, you don't really need that acceleration. They almost function better as a color fixing source than they do as a acceleration in this deck because there's so much colorless land.
Well, that's what he did. He discarded the Ancient Tomb to get there. So, and it's exactly as your point. It's a color fixer to just filter that land out. Sure. Well, looks like this tide is resolving.
Yeah, this is kind of where it's awkward, like you said, with Swords to Plowshares, that this tide can now get Swords to Plowshares because you played Opalescence. Whereas if you didn't play the Opalescence, you could just play the tide, exile the 2 lands, and win from there pretty easily if Stu's not playing anything.
Yep.
Stu's getting punished by drawing his Plains when his deck has 4 counterspells and 4 absorbs, not having the 2 blue mana.
Yep. No
mana leaks though, or Force of Will. So he was just kind of caught with shields down.
Yeah. Well, we have the Disenchant, so we're gonna it looks like we are letting 1 land get removed. We're tapping for mana. I think Robin's trying to pass priority so he can maybe completely exile one of them. But
I don't think Robin has a window here unless he has the Seal of Cleansing. He doesn't play Stifles or anything. So as long as generally it's
sure.
The rule of thumb is that if the opposing player plays the removal spell, it's not going to be a way to permanently exile anything.
Well, it looks like
he does take that opportunity to untap his 2 lands.
yeah. I mean, that's a good one. So follow
he's
up
got a second spell
here.
here. He's got to replenish to bring it back. That would be.
Oh my goodness, he does.
Yes.
This is turn 3, by the way. This is really good. So we get to trade replenish for disenchant, and no tempo lost. And we're going to lose some land here, and now Stu's in a tight spot.
So Robin has tapped his Ancient Tomb now 3 times and taken 1 attack. So if he doesn't find another enchantment, really, if Stu was able to draw some more mana, he might be able to steal this one.
Sure.
Because the Opalescence does not animate itself, so he's only attacking for 4, and he only gets three turns of attacking with that. So that's not enough to kill Stu. He still needs to find another way. But he is the only one playing spells.
There's possibly if Robin can kind of get a few misses here, and Stu can draw White Source into Sword to Plowshares, we get our lands back, and then we're back in the game. But it's kind of might be a tall order here.
One interesting thing about Robin's deck is that he's not playing any intuitions. He's instead playing Woo Spy.
Sure.
And a couple of strategic plannings and deep analysis. So a little more on the put stuff directly into your graveyard plan. But in a situation like this where you just want to go find a Parallax Wave, it's not quite as good.
Right.
The Woo Spy is a much better metagame call against like the red decks or the creature decks of the world, where you can play it and block by a turn while you're still progressing towards your combo.
It also can be part of the combo too, because you can bounce it infinitely and deck your opponent.
Mm-hmm. If you do have the Opalescence and Wave, it does mill your opponent out.
Yeah. So it is a nice kind of feature that you get in middle school that you won't get in pre-modern. And it's kind of nice to see. Just kind of out of Robin's side. It's kind of a nice upgrade that we've seen as the Replenish decks have fallen, come over into our meta. That is something new that we've seen in the last couple of leagues, is the Woo Spy inclusion.
The Replenish decks in middle school are so varied because you have anywhere from no counter spells to 8 counter spells depending on the pilot, and you even see Mahashi playing the Decree of Silence, the real counter spell.
Yeah, right.
So it's very varied, but I think the second Parallax Tide should easily win this game now. Exiles the other land. I think Stu. He's just putting the face up. I thought he was conceding there.
No, it doesn't. He doesn't have time.
While we can.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I believe you're right. The window to kind of get here, because we need to draw 2 cards, assuming we don't have a Sword to Plowshares. And then you draw another land or another Sword to Plowshare so we can get the other one. Or I guess we can't disenchant. We won't have the mana to disenchant.
Parallax Tide is going away next turn. They don't stick around forever unless you have Parallax Wave. So
that's fair.
He can maybe outweight it if he's at 8.
He did block.
He's getting 2 lands back the next turn.
That could be a window to disenchant. We could disenchant the Opalescence.
Yeah. So here he's going to get back Adakar Waste and the Plains.
Untapped, notably. Okay. Well, now if we have Sword to Plowshares, we have Sword to Plowshare mana as well, so we could take the other Parallax Tide. I'm very curious to see what happens here. I want to know what's in Stu's hand.
I'm assuming it's some counter spells.
Yeah.
And probably some counter spells. It's not lands, and maybe a Linsivy or a Whipcord or something that he can play, but maybe a Standstill that isn't going to do anything at this point. But he's tapping some mana.
Ooh, another disenchant. Ooh, look at that. Okay.
It's interesting. What do you choose here? He's going to choose the Parallax Tide. which I think is the right choice if depending on what creatures he wants to play. Parallax Wave though kind of makes me think he should have hit the Opalescence.
Right.
It's just now he's got no way to break through this. Well,
right.
He has to draw another disenchant for the Opalescence, and
he does have at least one more in the deck, but it's only one more.
He has one more, yes. Oh, he's got the swords for the Parallax Wave. Let's see if Robin knows how to do this. I'm assuming he does if he's 3-1.
Yeah. I don't expect Robin to mess that one up. Which makes me wonder, did Stu have the Sword of Plowshares before? Could we have swords the Tide and disenchanted this wave?
I would think if he had it, he would have done that. So I think he kind of just drew it, and this is he was just trying to check to see.
Well, for those for the uninitiated, Parallax Tide as a creature allows you to remove itself from the game. Yeah, Parallax Wave, rather. Will allow you to kind of remove it from the game and then return it back to play. Resetting the counters, notably. So, effectively, it means that Stu can't play creatures anymore. And can't really remove it. We have to remove the Opalescence first. But Robin's already used 2 Replenish as well, so he may struggle to find another Replenish, and this may be kind of all he has. It's probably going to be enough.
This is all he needs, because while this is in place, Stu can't play any creatures. They all get exiled immediately forever.
Yeah.
And Stu's really just trying to draw his one remaining disenchant. So
he doesn't have any card draw in
here.
Be
enough. Yeah. I mean, he's got 4 standstills that don't quite draw the cards when you need them to.
Standstill just gets exiled. It's a creature.
Yeah, it's a creature. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's going to be enough for Robin. I'm going to take the first game here.
Okay, so after sideboard, Stu's going to have access to Meddling Mages, which a deck like his would want, and an extra disenchant, as well as annul, and maybe some Tormod's Crypts.
Yeah, I think Tormod's Crypt just makes sense because we have enough cards that don't interact favorably. We can take those out.
And it's also really good when you're trying to be aggressive that it's free and you don't have to hold up mana for it.
Right.
Like luckily he's a rebel deck, so he's willing to hold up mana anyway. But a lot of times when you're the aggro deck and you have a good sideboard card, you have to make the choice between deploying a threat or holding up a counter spell. So I imagine he's probably going to take out Swords to Plowshares, even though it can do something with Opalescence in play. I don't think that's what you're trying to do. And then maybe take out his higher end rebels. It looks like he's got a
Jovel Queen.
Jovel Queen.
Yeah, we can take that out.
Captain that I don't think you're ever going to get to. I think you just want to play some 1/1s and maybe start some whip quarters.
Right. We probably don't even need the whip quarters. If we need to take more cards out, that's probably something. I mean, it's a 2/2.
Whip quarters still your most efficient beater. I think you're going to keep those in. Maybe even cut you go down to 1 or 2 Lin Cities. But
sure,
or cut the Defiant Falcons. There's lots of ways if you want to cut cards, but I think he should have a strong gameplay because he'll have Meddling Mages as well. So yeah, maybe you're right. You can cut headquarters and get Meddling Mage.
Right.
On the other side, Robin, his sideboard, he's got some spicy cards in here.
Yes, he does.
I might have to look up this one. I don't think I know what Command of Unsummoning does. So
that's a card that's not coming in this matchup, but it is a fun card.
You have stumped me on Command of Unsummoning. I'm assuming
it is a portal card,
and it is a turn any 1 or 2 attacking creatures to their owner's hand. Okay, that's interesting. It's like a withdrawal. Is that correct?
Sort of. Might be like withdrawal. I mean, it's
withdrawal, sort of. Yeah. Or it's sort of like withdrawal. It's a little bit better, a little bit worse, depending on how
easier to cast in his deck.
3 versus 2 mana. Yeah, that's a cool card. He might still bring that in. I doubt it. I think he's probably wants to bring in the Null Rods to stop Tormod's Crypt.
Sure. He has the Null Rods. Does he still have the True Believers in there? I know he was playing around with those.
He does have 2 True Believers in his sideboard.
Okay, those stop the Tormod's Crypts.
Those also stop Tormod's Crypt, and they can train with a meddling mage.
Yes.
He doesn't really have a lot of answers to meddling mage, which is a problem. He has no source of plowshares in his 75, so none in his main deck, none in his sideboard. Now,
All right, so maybe command of something has to come in so we can bounce the meddling mage.
however, Replenish is kind of good at working around the meddling mage, in that they have to either name Replenish or Parallax Wave, and you can kind of get one in play if they name the other. So maybe he can make it happen. I also expect him to probably maybe consider bringing in Defense Grid against the counter spells.
Certainly. I think that makes sense. At least some number, I think sounds good, because that's something that, if we can get Meddling Mage to stop like Parallax Tide, then the counter spells buy us time to like stop anything else, like a Replenish.
Yeah. So Defense Grid, Null Rod, True Believer, maybe Command of Unsummoning. I don't think he wants Seal of Cleansings in this matchup. It might be okay to leave in one or two against Tormod's Crypts, but I don't. Or just having more enchantments for your Opalescence, but I think you'd rather have some of these other cards.
So if you're Stu and you get to your Meddling Mage on turn 2, what's the first name? What do we name first?
That's really interesting. If you don't have Mother of Runes in play, there could be a reason to say, I want to name Source of Plowshares, even though we know Robin doesn't have it, because it makes all your future Meddling Mages that much better. Otherwise, you can name Replenish, you can name Intuition is something that if you're on the play, you can name, because that's a card they have set up. We also know Robin doesn't have that, so that's interesting. I would guess probably just naming Parallax Wave, though, would be the one I would say first, because
that's the one that beats me with or without Replenish.
Right. And he looks like he named Replenish, though.
Okay.
That means he probably does not have a Tormod's Crypt in his hand.
Robin's going to pass this turn significantly slower this match than the previous one. And now look at this. If we drop this a Dakar Waste, we've got Counterspell or Absorb up. And that's all we really need. We can start beating down now.
Yeah, Stu's got to like where he's at on this. The slow start from Robin plus having all the minute. The only thing he would like to have is Hermosian Sergeant or another Rebel in play as well, so that he can continue to develop. So maybe we'll see him get to 4 mana so he can hold up Absorb and then play something.
Okay, so we do have a Sealing Cleansing.
So Sealing Cleansing does block a Meddling Mage if you get Opalescence in play. So,
it does.
I expect actually this match to probably go Stu's favor after board, given that Robin does not have good answers to Meddling Mage. And if Stu just finds a Meddling Mage and names the right card, now that's harder said
that can be difficult.
Easier said than done, but
yeah,
this is a good start.
But knowing that we have Counterspell backup, like, we can kind of sit and play this game, right? We have a clock. Stu doesn't have to make any more moves past this, theoretically. If what we're sitting on is actually Counterspell, we can afford to, maybe tap our planes. Now we have a second land, so, I'm curious to see here.
It's a Mishra's Factory, so if he still has that Absorb, he's not able to play a 1-drop yet, but he is developing his board, and at some point he will be able to attack for a turn, and doubling his clock and cutting the number of turns that Robin has to get out of this.
Yeah, chat's pointing out that Robin's deck is going to struggle to play 2 cards per turn, unless one of them is Frantic Search, but that's not going to be as impactful.
Frantic Search is an interesting one in that a lot of times it's right to counter the Frantic Search when somebody plays it. A lot of times you think, it's card disadvantage, I'll just counter the card that they draw into, but a lot of times, they can generate extra mana.
Yeah.
Off of Ancient Tomb.
All right, well, Robin's going to play into a Counterspell here. We're going to play Tide. That is absolutely is going to get countered here. All right, demonstrating the Absorb.
Yeah, Parallax Tide's a good one because it is a good way to stop the counterspells for later stuff.
Yep.
This is, the awkward position that the Meddling Mage deck is in, is like you'd like to name Parallax Tide, you like to name Parallax Wave, and you like to name Replenish. So
all of the enchantments in Robin's deck are a problem.
Until you get all 3 melee mages in play. If you have the counter spells, you can maybe say, all right, I'm just going to fight over the Parallax Tides, and I'll name Replenish Parallax Wave. If you don't have the counter spells, maybe you just name the Replenish and Parallax, or the Parallax Tide.
Yeah. I like
try and raise.
I like naming Wave because it then encourages Robin to play into the Replenish plan, and we already have that covered theoretically with Tormod's Crypt or with counter spells.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that, right now Robin doesn't have to play too much into the Replenish plan. It will play his spells into counter spells. They'll get countered, go to the graveyard, and they're still already there for Replenish later if we answer the meddling mage.
Yeah, that is a good point. That if you do name Parallax Wave, he may just start frantic searching and strategic planning and putting a bunch of stuff in the graveyard, so that when you do counterspell that Replenish, you're up a lot. Interesting that Stu's only attacking with the melee mage here, without playing another land to represent a counterspell, unless he does have another land here. He could attack with the factory, so I'm assuming that means he has a disenchant. And that disenchant he's saving for a Parallax Wave here to continue the attack.
Sure. And I guess
if you attack for 2 and get your guy's wave, you're going to miss an attack on the next turn. You'll still have the disenchant, but...
Yeah. This looks like an attunement. No, it's a friendly search. Okay. There we go. Sure. So that's going to resolve. I mean, we definitely are showing that we don't have any counter spells this turn, so we either have nothing or exactly disenchant.
I mean, Robin could be thinking about Mana Leak. That is a card that you would expect to see from a deck like Stu's.
Yep. It's
interesting that the Rebel decks tend to not play Mana Leak because they go so long with their game plan that they take so long to win the game that it's hard to actually make use of Mana Leaks in late game. You'd rather have that hard counter.
All right, so we're discarding Wu Spy and Wastes, Darkar Wastes. Untap our land. We're going to play and fetch. Drop to 12. Let's see, what do we have more of? What do we want here? I think this will tell us maybe a little bit more contextual information. Get a plains, okay. I guess we don't have the only double blue cards we have in this deck are the Tides.
Correct. And without the intuition,
yeah,
he attunement twice a turn. I'm trying to get other times he need 2 blue, but
all right, defense grid, shields up. He can't.
See what Stu does here. Is he going to disenchant the seal? He does. That is
okay.
That's a good play because the seal does let Robin do tricks with his Parallax Waves or his Parallax Tides to fully exile things.
Sure.
Even though Stu had the disenchant, so it is some minor value here.
Or of Silence, follow-up play. So that's going to make it difficult for Stu to play his Tormod's Crypts for free. And it is another Seal of Cleansing style effect, so that does kind of put Stu in a similar spot he was in before. He can also tag off one of these Mistress Factories if we want.
Yeah, I think if you're Stu, you should probably attack here for 6 and put him on a 2-turn clock. Kind of force him to use that Aura of Silence to stabilize, and then possibly deploy, hopefully, a Tormod's Crypt not a Tormod's Crypt.
Yeah, I mean, otherwise, Robin only has 2 cards in hand, so I think as much pressure as possible now is probably the right time.
Oh, Stu's going to attack for 7. Not
sure, that's fine.
Necessary, but
well, it doesn't.
Stu is running to a situation here against Defense Grid where, because he's a Rebel deck and he's choosing to play Disenchant over Seal of Cleansing, If he had seal cleansing, he'd be in a little better spot against
Sure.
defense screen because he could play those on his turn.
That makes a lot of sense. So Robin was going to drop down to 5 here, and we're going to play another creature. Okay, so even if we have the Parallax Wave, that's not good enough because we still have 2 factories. Well, 2 factories will put them down to 1,
Right.
so that's significantly greater than 0.
He can use the wave on a factory as well in fog for a turn.
Sure.
But he does want to use that wave on the meddling mage at the least. I am surprised Robin didn't use the Aura Silence on a factory there.
Opalescence is not the winning play
because
here.
He needs the Aura Silence to block. I don't think that's enough.
No,
I don't think that's enough blocking here.
That is not.
That does explain his line of thinking there. If he had a Source of Flashers here, he might be able to live.
Well, he'd have to use it now because
he doesn't have it in his deck, but no, that's true. The defense grid turns that off.
Yes, it does. All right. Activate both factories. Turn sideways.
Stu knows the defense grid is symmetrical.
Hey, we can.
Or if he's going to tap, he can tap the.
We can tap the Aura of Silence. Yeah. I want to see Whipcord tap Aura of Silence. Come on.
That's actually not what you want to do because it lets it double block by blowing it up. But
oh no, Stu.
I think.
I mean, it's sweet for the camera.
Robin is still dead.
I think he is too. Because let's say that's still 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 attacking. Already after we get rid
attacking.
of. Yeah,
it's attacking if he has 2 factories in the melee mage.
Right. So 8 attacking, 6 after Aura Silence takes out one of these factories. That should do it. Because Robin doesn't have the mana to do anything else. Alrighty. Well, Robin says, yeah, you got that one. I wonder just how much that Meddling Mage on Replenish actually did. I want to know if that was one of the cards left in Robin's hand, or if it just, or maybe that just, sculpted the rest of his game plan to, not go that route. I'm not sure.
It was interesting because he discarded a Woo Spy, and I didn't see Replenish, but he might have played the Woo Spy to dig further, and maybe discarded that Parallax Tide earlier to try and set it up. Robin really needed to have a Mox or Soul Land in that game when he's on the draw to make up for, if he can play something that turn that Stu taps out for the melee mage, it makes it a little more awkward for Stu to navigate the later turns.
Yep. Or maybe just, Robin's draw was just bad, and just, maybe it didn't matter what meddling mage named.
This is definitely something you see in middle school and pre-modern a lot, that, half your deck is good cards and the other half is less than good cards, and it did seem like he drew a lot of his less than good cards in that game. Yep. At least for this matchup.
That is magic of this era, which is, part of the charm, I think.
Right, and we saw it game 1 with Stu. He drew. All he played was some Disenchants and some Defiant Falcons.
Yeah, 2 mana, 1/1 flyers.
That's not really what we want to sign up for. So
no, delayed Squadron Hawk.
Stu's deck has a lot fewer good cards, but a lot fewer bad cards. It's less polarized.
Sure,
it's more kind of all in the middle.
I think the only real risk, on Stu's side is to just draw only creatures. And I think only creature draw I don't think that can ever really win or match up well against what Robin's doing.
Yeah. I would say the other thing that might be awkward for Stu is if he has like a 1-drop standstill type of hand, but Robin has a Mox Diamond Ancient Tomb type of hand, that maybe even the turn 2 standstill, probably it might not be enough. Like you might even already be behind on the board, or when you do get to draw 3 cards, it doesn't matter because you're tapped out and Robin's going to play Replenish.
Chat pointing out that just naming Replenish makes your counter spells and your disenchants just a little bit, those decisions are just easier. Just because you have perfect information. which is fine. I think that's reasonable. Okay, defense grid, step 1 for Robin.
Defense grid definitely makes that a tougher plan.
Annulled.
Oh, a null though.
Oh,
That's a nice annul.
that was
There's a
that was
gold
lovely.
border. I wonder if that's a John Finkel annul.
Ooh, could be.
Fortunately, the deck photo I have of Stu's is it doesn't actually have a picture of the annul in it. It just has a big red X over whatever card was there before. It says annul.
Yeah, he cut something for the annul.
What did he cut? How's this card?
He does represent a second blue source, so he could be holding counterspell right now. We're gonna fetch. All right. Fetching might
Even
be
if he
ambitious.
has a counterspell, I think he's fine to play a creature this turn, whether that is Defiant Falcon or Meddling Mage. Either one of those is better than playing counterspell. You don't want to just pass with mana up for your whole game. If you can get one of those in play first and then pass with counterspell up.
Tormod's Crypt and Standstill. Interesting.
Interesting. That is a very interesting play. I would assume then that he has some man lands in his hand. But
yeah, because
here's that ancient tomb I talked about though.
This is going to be a tide. This is a problem.
Mm-hmm. Like I said, even the standstill draw might be just slow.
Yeah.
Robin gets to exile the lands, and if he has a follow up, he has 2 or 3 turns to find Parallax Wave, Opalescence, or Replenish, anything of that sort. So,
this makes me think we have at least a factory in hand. But we do have a plains. All right, so we're going to play plains, and we have a 1-drop. Mom, all right, mom's fine. I mean, we still do have a crypt on the table, so we have a little bit of a
Crypt
safety valve.
Replenish, and Robin does not have double white yet, so he can't play Parallax Wave or Opalescence. So this
those are all very significant.
Frantic Search here. Yes, Frantic Search. Floating a white mana, I assume.
Yeah, that would make sense. Well, this will give us. This will give us something. Yep, it untaps 3 lands, so we get to net some mana here. So we'll get double white for this turn. After we choose and discard. Frantic Search, very, very good role player in this Replenish deck. Because it lets you kind of get some tempo advantage in sort of implementing your combo by essentially
I don't
being
think
free.
He's discarded any cards here. Do we want to?
He has not discarded any cards.
It's not a draw 2, Robin.
Let's see if Stu figures it out. All right, hold on. Hey, Robin, you haven't discarded any cards yet. You should resolve your Frantic Search. There we go. I'm sure he's got it. I'm sure he'll figure it out.
Yeah.
All right. There he goes. That might change some of what he's doing. So now he's rolling back. Okay, so untap mana, we got our 1 mana floating. Let's discard 2 cards. So we've seen attunement, we've seen some land. I'm curious how much this is going to change his game plan. All right, we're gonna
Ancient Tomb and a Plains.
Sure. All right. So we're not going to use double white profitably here, are we? So we're going to play. Okay, plenty of mana. Going to play attunement. Got it. We're going to pass because we want to keep these cards in hand. All right, that makes sense. We don't have these extra lands to discard. We've discarded them already.
Yeah, and Robin can just kind of sit back for a while with his attunement. He can't go for a explosive replenish with the crypt in play, but he can, just keep playing 4 mana enchantments every turn. If he finds them. Mosin Sergeant here. So Stu's getting his army back up.
This will put on pressure, but I don't know. Like, we have double white, so we can still play the tide at any time, or the wave rather, if we have one. I don't know why my brain keeps wanting to switch tide and wave, but that's just what's happening right now.
Ooh, this is great. Did you have that on your bingo cards? Mother of Runes attacking. My favorite thing to see. I love it.
I got attacked by Mother of Runes in my match. It was effective. Mom attacks. I think Mom attacks more than we give credit for.
I always want to attack with my mom, and it's like I get punished more than I get punished enough that I know I attack too much, but at the same time, I've done so much damage.
Yeah. Well, I love to see Stu do that, right? You know, against this ancient tomb. I think it get in here. The only thing it's protecting against is the tide. Or the wave. Again, do it again, man. Yeah. All right, we just need to get these fading enchantments out of here.
Yeah. Hopefully we don't have to do that in the second match. Hopefully it's just this one match. So you'll be confused. You'll find something else to be confused about in the second match.
Sounds about right.
Can you name the other parallax enchantment?
Oh my gosh. I can picture it in my head. But no, I can't remember what it is.
It's Parallax Dementia, I believe. The black one.
All right, let's find out. Parallax Nexus.
Sorry, Parallax Nexus.
It's like so Parallax Dementia is an enchant creature card. Nexus is an actual enchantment.
Nexus is the one that has fading, right?
Yes.
Yeah. What is Parallax Dementia? Why would
I know that? I am pulling it up right now.
Oh, it is also from... Yes, it is the...
Yes.
Oh,
there we go.
That's a cool card.
You can remove, a card from their hand from the game? Yep.
Oh, there's also Parallax Inhibitor. There was a 5th Parallax card that lets you... It's an artifact you can sacrifice to put extra fading counters on your stuff.
So notably here, Robin's able to answer this Tormod's Crypt, force the activation, and then we're going to town and discarding quite a few enchantments into the graveyard. But it is giving Stu a chance to untap here. And that if we have the right land or card contents, we might be able to counterspell here.
We've got 2 tides and a Parallax Wave and an Attunement in the yard. He's showing to Stu.
Yeah.
The 3rd tide in play, so he needs an Opalescence and a Replenish. Stu's still only has this 2 mana for 1 more turn, so...
Notably, we could disenchant the current tide in play, get back 2 blue sources, and counterspell. So we could be representing counterspell.
Alright, attack for 3. He's on still a 4-turn clock, but the Ancient Tomb's probably going to make that a 3 or 2-turn clock eventually.
Tap blue source. Oh no. Oh, we're tapping a land. What are we doing? Whip quarter. Okay, we're just going to add pressure. You know, Stu's saying you don't have any way to answer my creatures. Really, you just have the 1 wave, and if I overload it...
Robin looking to draw something good. He's going to draw 4 cards this turn with the Attunement plus his draw step, so any Replenish is good.
Yeah.
Ideally, Replenish and Opalescence. But even just a Parallax Wave is good. It is weird that he discarded a Parallax Wave, so that makes me think he... Oh, there's an Opalescence. That makes me think he's found a Replenish if he discarded the Wave last turn.
Sure, yeah.
This turn.
I think this is it. Here we go.
Yep. Gonna exile. Yep.
Oh no.
All of Stu's creatures, all of Stu's land.
Yeah. Stu will not be able to play Magic anymore.
I'm trying to think if there's a window here for a disenchant to do anything. I think if you're Robin, you just use your waves, your tides, on the lands in play, and well, Stu's going to concede without this. But
Yeah,
there was a chance where the 2 from the first Parallax Tide would come back and he could disenchant the Opalescence.
Yep. But I still think at that point, you do that, and then Robin just has to search for another Opalescence, maybe? But maybe he doesn't find it in a couple turns, and all these Parallax things hit the graveyard again, and then I guess we get to replenish, but yeah, Robin's going to take this one 2-1 here. Advance to 4-1.
Robin had all the good answers, the good second level double counters. He had the counters to Stu's counters in that second game. He had the defense grid that forced Stu to be proactive even with the null, and he had the what did he use? The Seal of Cleansing on the Tormod's Crypt to set up that replenish.
Yep. Stu kind of boarding exactly as we expected, right? The Tormod's Crypts, the Annul, the Disenchant, the Meddling Mages. I didn't see what he'd taken out.
Bring in the Null Rods like we thought.
Okay.
Nor the Command of Unsummoning, which I didn't think he would actually bring Command of Unsummoning or True Believer. True Believer and Null Rod. I guess until he sees those crypts, he might not want to bring them in, but I think for game 3, he could have brought them in. All right. Well, that was a good first match.
It was.
So we'll have a new one, second match coming up here shortly after break. But before we go to break, Robert, you said you are 2-3 in this league. What did you play?
I have been playing Eggstorm. So I have been tinkering with a Tendrils deck, and I feel very good about it. I think the deck is really cool. I don't know if it's great yet. My record is not stellar, but I have faced after round 1, I faced a 8 discard main deck, and 4 duresses, 4
Duress
therapies. Then I placed a deck with 12 main deck counterspells. And then I faced another deck. I faced Stu with 8 main deck counterspells and 4 disenchants. And then I just faced a deck with 10 main deck discard spells and a really fast combo with Reanimator. So I feel like my matchups have been not great in some of these senses, but there's been some really cool games. Games have been very close. Match with Stu was close. I think the deck has potential, so we'll see if I can make it 3-3, and see what lessons I can learn.
It's always nice to see more combo decks in middle school. It's the best thing about the format is how many combo decks there are, and sometimes you get the matchups where you play against decks that have no interaction and they're easy to win, but then there's so many decks that have tons of interaction and it's really tough. I
registered a Doomsday in this list, which is cool. And there are some pretty easy Doomsday piles, I will say, out of this. So it's there's something here. I don't think the list is quite perfect. It's difficult too, because Storm is always hard. And Storm in this format where you have such limited resources is difficult. But but it's fun. But how about you? How's your league going?
I am 4-1 now? Yes, 4-1. I won last night.
Right.
Epic 2-hour match.
Wow.
Yeah, there was a couple games where the games 2 and 3, we were both down to like 10 cards in our library in both the games. So,
that's
true
epic.
War of attrition.
I don't know if I want you to keep winning and have you on stream, but I'm worried, we're going to have a 2-hour game on stream now. Like,
It's definitely in the realm of possibility, so we'll see what happens.
All right, well, hopefully we are not bringing you a 2-hour game next round, unless you want as much magic, then, we'll see what we can bring you. But we're going to go ahead and take a short intermission now, get our next match queued up here, and we'll be back shortly. Hello, and welcome back to the Romancing the Stones Schools Out Middle School Webcam League. My name is Robert. I'm joined in the booth by Ty. How's it going, Ty?
I'm doing good. Glad we had an exciting first match. This next match hopes to be just as exciting.
I'm excited to see it because at least someone registered Tendrils is doing well. I'm excited for that one. So,
and somebody named Brian is going to be 5-0.
This is too the Battle of the Bryans, only undefeated players.
Mm-hmm. So I guess we'll call them Hockey and Chasanoff, or do we want to call them Tom and forget what Brian?
I think we can go with Tom
Inverted?
Basketball.
Yeah.
Sure, Legend of Tom.
And Inverted, right? Inverted is the other
Inverted,
one.
yeah, sure. Yeah.
Inverted and Tom. Yeah, it should be pretty clear who we're talking about, though, because on the right, Brian Chasanoff is playing a mono black Tendrils Necropotence life gain deck with 4 Tendrils of Agony, 3 Ivory Towers, and a Zurin Orb to go with 4 Necropotence, 4 Nantuko Shades, and 4 Phyrexian Negators, and a bunch of rituals. He does not have access to Dark Ritual because we were playing middle school, not pre-modern, though he did bring it there on his playmat.
If that's all you got, you got to roll with it.
Yeah. On the left, Tom Basketball has an Alluren deck. He's been playing Alluren now for going on a whole year, I believe. This is a new take on his deck with 4 Quirion Dryads. So he's got a more of a dedicated mid-range attacking plan, and then can kill you with the Alluren combo. To support those Quirion Dryads, he's got the full 4 Raven Familiars, as well as 3 Unearths. Lots of cool stuff in his list. It's a little different than what we saw before.
Yeah, I'm excited to see kind of how that plays out, especially against sort of Brian's really fast, sort of aggro Tendril style deck. We played in the Swiss last league and talked a lot about things that we could do to kind of make what he was kind of doing better. And apparently, whatever conversation we had then has paid off because he's undefeated so far. But it's what inspired me to put a Tendrils deck together. But his version's doing well, and we're seeing exactly the power of that right now. Turn 1 unmask with Cabal Therapy.
Yeah, and Hockey kept the 2-pair hand, and so he's now down. He lost both his Allurens and one of his Raven Familiars. So
wow.
I've always had complaints about Cabal Therapy. I know lots of people love to talk about how skill testing it is and how good of a card it is, and I find it to be extremely frustrating that sometimes you have a hand that has multiples of cards that you consider mulliganing because you don't want to lose both of them to therapy, especially when it's a key card for your deck, like when you have 2 Allurens and you just lose both of them. I find that to be definitely the worst part about Cabal Therapy.
Right.
Not a fan of that. I don't think you want to encourage people to mulligan their good hands.
That's fair. That's something I don't know if I've thought about, but you bringing it up now has made me realize that's probably happened to me a few times. I don't know if I've ever thought about mulliganing. Yeah. I keep thinking, this is duress proof.
I remember back in Standard playing these matchups, playing Blue-Green Madness against Mono Black Control and leading with turn 1 Careful Study, and then they just therapy for Wild Mongrel. And I had 2 Wild Mongrels in my hand, and I'd lose them both and just had no chance of winning. It's just...
Sure.
Just, what am I supposed to do? Keep a much worse hand?
Mr. Basketball has managed to draw one of his Dryads, which is looking good against what Brian's doing over there. We did get to Mesmeric Fiend in the hand. We took a Necropotence out of there. We only saw Tendrils. We have 1 unknown, but I think this Dryad could easily represent just taking over the game here.
Yeah, he's, as long as it doesn't die, and I don't think there's any removal. Well, there's 2 Snuff Outs in Brian's deck, and he's exiled 1 to an unmask. So, and this Ivory Tower, not even close to being online. So, I'm expecting to see. Well, he does not have the blue source yet. So the blue source for Raven Familiar would be really trying to get that engine going. The Raven Familiar into Unearth on your Raven Familiar
Oh wow.
to continue to keep counters going, or even finding the real spicy one is the Shrieking Drake that you can play and just bounce itself. So every turn you get an extra counter on your Quirion Dryad. Lots of cool things in this deck that also still overlap with the Alluren combo.
Well, another therapy here takes the Tendrils we know about, reveals a Lake of the Dead, and leaves Brian without much going on.
Yeah, he really wants to draw, I would say, Necropotence here, or maybe even Nantuko Shade. Those are probably his best draws. It's going to be hard for him to reach enough critical mass to storm off without finding a Necropotence.
Right. Well, we have a chance here if we can. The top card of our library, or at least top 2 cards, one of them is a Necropotence. We may be fine here. We can bobble, end of turn, draw that, play the Lake of the Dead. After let's see, play. Yeah, we should be able to play the Necropotence and draw a bunch of cards, start gaining life. We might be in somewhere.
Oh, he's just going to play another Koala Therapy. This time, nothing to name, but he wants that extra counter.
Wow, okay.
He's now on a 4-turn clock, though. And the other thing with the attacking Brian's life total is that it makes the future Necropotences that much worse. So.
It does. So this is really our window here. You know, maybe we can draw Snuff out, buy some more time, but... All right, 2 cards. What do we draw? I mean, if we draw a Negator, Negator could block. We'll nuke our board, but we could block.
This is definitely where you see, if the mono black deck had access to Dark Ritual, and it could have played that Necropotence on turn 1 instead of having to go all in on the discard first.
Yes.
Going on the discard first is good. It clears the way, but then it left him open to that top deck Mesmeric Fiend. And I think Tom Basketball has this mostly wrapped up. So maybe a small Tendrils here could buy some time. Zernoid will buy extra time, but
okay. If this is Necropotence in hand,
productive in.
No, it's a Negator. Okay, interesting. So, well, at the very least, we're going to be able to block, gain a bunch of life, and maybe start to rebuild. But I think we're in desperation mode.
If we block and leave only our Ivory Tower behind, perhaps we can draw up to enough cards in hand to mitigate that Mesmeric Fiend attacking.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah, sure.
Tom Basketball draws no future creatures or attack threats. Any blue source, this Raven Familiar is coming down.
Just
any Imperial Recruiter is going to really snowball.
Yep.
There's a lot of things that Tom can draw to increase the clock. Oh,
well, that just ruins that plan.
Yeah, this is to make his Dryad bigger. I wonder if he's going to flash back the therapy with the Mesmeric Fiend to naming Necropotence and making his Dryad bigger than the Negator. Oh no, it's only a 4/4.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, we can
have to play another creature.
We can block. We lose all of our lands in our Zoron Orb. We can leave the Ivory Tower.
Or
we could just leave the Negator. Okay. Yeah, sure. I mean,
this is exciting. Okay.
This Mesmeric Orb is gonna trade with the Negator, sort of.
Mesmeric Fiend, but if he plays a land, ooh. But he gets a Necro back? Really interesting attack.
Brian's like, or Hockey's, says, yeah, sure, I'll take 4, trade with the Negator, get Necropotence back. Do we have a swamp? A swamp here would be good.
Anything.
Well, it would at least let us keep going. Okay, so we do. So that means... Okay. All right.
He still needs another swamp to be able to sack one to the lake and activate it, right?
We could draw a ritual. Ritual here off the top. We might Necrolock us, though, without our Ivory Tower. But
Interesting that Hockey chose not to flash back the therapy there.
Sure.
He doesn't need to because I don't think there's, like you said, other than the ritual is the only thing he can draw. Ooh, an Alluren. I wonder if that means. All right.
We're gonna try to win here.
To win.
Oh, and we've won.
Found the recruiter. So I think that's
that should do it. I mean,
yeah.
what's the recruiter line in here, right? We get recruiter for recruiter to mana.
You get several recruiters, and then you get a Cavern Harpy, and then you can Cavern Harpy Raven Familiar to draw enough cards for your life. Then you can find a your last recruiter can also find a Mana War, and then you bounce that for the recruiter, and then you can bounce the Mana War to bounce your.
Okay.
You end up getting Spike Feeder, and you use Spike Feeder to get enough life.
Oh, sure. Spike Feeder gets you the life, and then you have infinite life. Sure.
Yeah. He does not have a way to actually kill on his turn, but he is able to, if he finds another Mesmeric Fiend, he can exile all of Brian's hands all the cards in his hand during his draw step, and then make an arbitrary large Quirion Dryad. What's cool about the Quirion Dryad plan is that if you just have Alluren, Quirion Dryad, and Mana War, or Cavern Harpy, or Shrieking Drake,
makes an infinitely large creature. Yeah,
if they can't block. So you don't even have to have the Recruiter or the Raven Familiar.
I like that addition. I think that makes a lot of sense.
It's a pretty cool plan, and it definitely streamlined the deck. He's no longer playing that one Academy Rector or those two Deranged Hermits and the Recurring Nightmare to kind of value plan. He just has the Quirion Dryads and the Unearths and the four Raven Familiars. And Raven Familiar is a very strong card. I played some of it in a pre-modern list I had that was Recurring Nightmare, Palinchron, Great Whale. And if you have four mana lands, 4 mana producing lands, or lands that tap for 4, you can go infinite with those. And Raven Familiar is a perfect way, once you have that infinite mana, to then draw through your deck to find your kill card, which that deck was highly robber, but
all right, so Raven Familiar, for the uninitiated, is a 3 mana 1/2. When it comes into play, look at the top 3 cards of your library, put one of them into your hand, and the rest at the bottom in any order. So it draws a card, which is nice. Has card selection. Echo is kind of a dagger if we're trying to play a fair game, but off of the Alluren, or if we have these Cavern Harpies, not too bad.
Yep. And with the Unearths, it makes it, an Unearth a 1 mana 1/2 that also has this pseudo impulse on it. So if you look at the sideboards here, Brian on the right has lots of cards that he probably wants. He has 4 Contagion and 2 Snuff Outs that are going to be very good.
Yeah.
Engineered Plague, also very good. You can name the Recruiter or the Beast for Cavern Harpy. You might even name the Leaf Quirion Dryad is definitely a Dryad. I don't know if it has another type now or not. Is it an elf?
I'm going to look that up right now.
Or is it just a Dryad? It wouldn't make sense to be an elf if it's a Dryad. So I don't know what I'm saying.
That's true. It would not.
It's just a Dryad.
A lot of sense for that. Okay, so it is just a Dryad. Great.
But Engineer Plague also, you can name Nightmare, get those Mesmeric Fiends. It's a good card to have. I don't know if he wants the Powder Kegs.
They seem slow, but I mean, maybe.
He does have 2 Dystopia. And Dystopia can really wreck some Quirion Dryads and Birds of Paradise. So I believe it even can get the Allurens if they're in play. Yes, correct.
So yeah, Dystopia.
Green or white permanent. Yeah.
Wow. 3 mana enchantment. Does have an upkeep of 1 life. Fine if you're on the tower plan, if you're doing that well. But during each player's upkeep, if that player controls any green or white permanents, they have to sacrifice a green or white permanent. So yeah.
So there's up to 12 cards that Brian can bring in. I don't think he wants all of them. I don't think he's going to play Powder Keg. I don't even know if this is actually the matchup he wants Dystopia for, but he can play it. And maybe he's just going on a more beatdown plan. He'll side out his Tendrils maybe his Ivory Towers reserve, or some of his Lotus Petals and Baubles, and just kind of go on a Nantuko Shade Negator plan with creature removal. On the other side, Tom Basketball, he has Tormod's Crypts, a Monk Idealist.
Okay.
Or no, sorry, Monk Realist. That's the one that kills things.
That is.
Octavia Orangutan, 2 Hull Breach, a Naturalize, 2 Bone Shredders, a Vendetta, 2 Spike Feeders, and a Wall of Blossoms. So I imagine he's going to bring in his enchantment removal, at least the Monk Realist and Naturalize. Maybe, yeah, definitely the Hull Breach, because you can hit both artifacts and enchantments with that. And I don't know if he's going to try for any creature removal, as I believe both Vendetta and Bone Shredder don't actually kill the black creature.
They do not. Nope, not what we want here.
He might have Wall of Blossoms, an extra Wall of Blossoms in to have some more card draw against the discard.
It helps with these therapies. I mean, we see an extra wall. We see the Wall of Blossoms in Hockey Sand right now.
Yeah, he has 2 main and 1 on the board. So
okay, wonder which one we're seeing here. But it looks like Brian's going to start off with a Swamp Cabal Therapy. Hockey is able to deploy Forest, and then or at least a Painland here, it looks like, and a Birds. And Brian follows up with the Ivory Tower. And playing a Petal doesn't make a lot of sense to me if we want to gain more life. But shrug.
What is this other green card in Brian and Tom Basketball's hand? Is that Spike Feeder?
Yes.
It must be a Spike Feeder.
You do have the Spike Feeder.
Yeah. For a little bit, I thought it was a Wirewood Savage, which is not a card uncommon in Alluren decks, but I don't think I'd seen one on his list, so I was a little surprised. But yeah, Spike Feeder, he has one of those main, a couple more on the board. I don't think he's going to bring any extra in the main, from the board in, but we'll see.
Oh wow, look at this. We've got 2 Necropotents, a Negator, and a Contagion.
So if you're Tom, you have to take the Contagion because it just kills the
and then we can Cabal Therapy these Necros away. Ooh.
Yes.
Just man, Brian's gotten hit by some real powerful therapies here. And now
did not even have the 3rd land for a Negator, so
no. Not looking good here.
Yeah, it is interesting against the decks with other discard. I don't know if you want to keep those Ivory Towers in. I mean, they're obviously very good with Necropotents. This is where the Necropotents in middle school, it's just really hard to win once you get Necro going, because you have to spend so many resources just to get it into play and resolve it. And then the best way to win with it is, we've seen several decks with Ivory Towers to leverage, just to keep that card draw going. So if you have it Necro plus Tower, it's good, but sometimes it'd be better to just kill them, and there's just not really the way to do that.
Right. Well, and I don't know, if we're not playing, if we have to cut the Ivory Towers from our deck, then we can't keep playing the Necropotents. I think Brian's deck just does not support that kind of configuration. But wow, 2 Lotus Petals to put in the Gator. That's unfortunate, because that will kind of uses too many resources on Brian's side.
Yeah, and Brian only has 18 lands, so he's got 16 swamps, 2 Lake of the Dead, plus 4 Lotus Petals. So 22 mana sources, a little on the light side.
Yeah.
He's got Cabal Rituals, he's got Urza's Baubles to kind of supplement that, but they're a little. You can definitely hoping to draw Necropotents to find more lands.
It's possible we have a land in hand and we just Lotus Petals better if we're planning to attack with this Negator. We don't want to sacrifice land.
That's true, but Tom could block with 3 power if he wanted to and clear the board.
Yes, he could.
That would give back your Contagion.
That would get back Contagion, sure, and then we could, maybe use that to nuke the Birds here. But I think Ooh, we're deploying another. Okay, just another thing that we can sacrifice. So now if we attack,
Yeah.
you don't have to lose the negator.
Yeah, I'm really not sure what Brian needs to draw here to get back into this game. Tom's kind of got all the time in the world to draw into an
Right.
Alluren, or just even Imperial Recruiter for a big value engine. If he finds Recruiter for Mana War, he's got 6 mana in play. He can just start playing Recruiter every turn.
What's interesting is we didn't attack. I think we could have attacked. And
Well, he's now moved 2 counters to his Birds of Paradise and attacking in the air. So now the negator can attack because there's only the Mesmeric Fiend and some 0 power guys to block.
Yeah, I think I almost still would have attacked even with when he could have blocked with 3 power.
On Earth.
Yeah, that's what I'm worried about.
This clock is going to be big fast, so I think Tom is empty-handed.
Nah, he's got 1 card.
No, he's got 1 card, but he's got access to move another counter. So soon that bird can be coming over for 4 a turn. Which once again, once you get down below 10, the Necropotence stops being as strong. You need that life total cushion to play with to really leverage Necro.
So
we saw Necropotence in the top 8 of our last league, but that played white for land tax as well as in light tutor. And I think that's definitely a better way to go than mono black, I believe. So one thing about this deck though is that if it gets 1 turn window to draw maybe 8 cards, 6 cards, even it can go off with Tendrils
and that's the style, right?
Going. Yeah,
that's what it wants to do. It wants to do exactly that. Play that, draw a bunch of cards, go off with Tendrils, maybe use that to draw more card, do another Tendrils for the win, or just follow up with a negator or a big shade potentially. But we've missed our windows, and the trouble here is that we've had the opportunity to cast Necropotence with mana, but we've constantly had to have it get discarded.
Okay, so Tom did not move any other counters to his bird, so he still attacks for 2, and he did use his other birds as flashback therapy. I don't know what he named, but he did not name that second negator that's there. Interesting that if he does get 2 negators in play, or even a 3rd negator, Tom is at 15, and it gets pretty tough to block enough.
Right.
Maybe there's one turn attack that could be lethal.
So if I'm Brian, I'm snap attacking with the negator that I have that's not summoning sick. Right, going through, talking about how we played this. Lake of the Dead does not come into play tapped. So that does work. We get to do that. And then if we agree, we can move to the attack step. I'm snap attacking. I'm happy with 2 negators in play and just little tiny dorks. I'm very happy to just sacrifice my towers.
Right. And we do have Lake of the Dead and Swamp, so if he does block with 3 power, we can sack 2 towers and a negator, get our Necros back, and have Necro online next turn. And we're at 15, so we are we're good.
Well, we don't get the Necros back. We only get the Contagion, but
the Contagion, sorry.
Yeah.
Yes.
But even still, Contagion will deal with the +1/+1 counters on this bird if we have to,
Okay. Yeah, Tom threw the Wall of Blossoms in front of the Gator, so he only takes 1 damage from Trample, and Brian did not have to sack anything because Wall of Blossoms has 0 power.
Okay, I'm on board. Buys him a turn without much resources here.
Yeah, these negators are big. They might be almost big enough. If Brian draws nothing but lands the rest of this game,
which he's doing,
I think he could probably pull this off if both players draw nothing but lands. Just eventually, the 5/5 trample is too much.
Now,
or if he draws Dystopia, this would be a perfect turn for Dystopia.
This would be. One of the things that Tom can do here is he can block with the Spike Feeder, damage on the stack, gain 4 life, and still, get 2 permanents
I'll
off of.
still get the 2. Yeah, we do have damage on the stacking mode, so that's a good point.
Yes.
I think he's more likely to move the counters to the birds or to the Mesmeric Fiend
Sure.
than he is to gain 4 life. But be able to block and still get value and force him to sacrifice. It's not one or the other, like it would be without damage on the stack.
Right. Curious what is going through his head right now. I believe he's got a card in hand. Maybe 2?
It looks like he was tapping his mana for an Alluren, but I think he's going to think twice that maybe that's... He doesn't need to play it yet. He would protect from discard, but it would let Brian be able to play any future negators or Ninjago Shades for free.
Yeah. But just thinking that, instant speed negator doesn't sound like the worst thing if you get on the negator side.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ooh, there's a Shrieking Drake. So Shrieking Drake, you may want to pull that one up. So 1 mana, 1/1 flyer, I believe.
I'm working on that one right now.
You have to return another creature you control to your hand.
Okay. There we go. There's the Shrieking Drake. All right. 1 mana, 1/1. Yeah, return a creature you own. So, what did we return? We returned.
So he moved the counter from the Spike Feeder to the birds, bounced the Spike Feeder, replayed the Spike Feeder.
Okay.
So now he's able to get his birds up to a 5/6 that will be able to block and live through any negator attack. So
next turn, but not this
Brian,
turn.
This is kind of your one turn that you have to maybe try and go for it.
Yeah, you have to. And I think we have to attack with both things, because if that's the plan that Tom is on, he can't block with either the birds or the Spike Feeder. So we're only going to be able to block up to 2 damage. And we've got 2 extra permanents sitting around that we can block. Right. And then that may not be good enough next turn when we attack for 10. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. Maybe he will do the gain 4 life, use sack 2 permanents play now at this point. With, I think he made a good threat, and now he has to, respond in kind.
Yeah. Now, if we have another Unearth sitting in Tom's hand, like that's then this gets real easy. Ooh. I think, for him.
It looks like he's got a triple block on 1 negator with a total of 6 toughness there. So he'll really be left with at least 1 creature and a single block with the Spike Feeder on the other negator. So that's going to take
that will take all the permanents.
7 permanents. That's all the permanents, and I'm assuming he's going to kill the Mesmeric Fiend and the Birds of Paradise. So
yeah,
Tom will be left with Shrieking Drake only, and Brian will be left with nothing but a Contagion in his hand.
And it looks like it looks like we gain life. Okay, so there goes everything on one side. We get a Contagion back in Brian's hand. He has a 1/1 and 1 card in hand. If this is an Unearth, though, holy moly.
Or Imperial Recruiter, or Raven Familiar.
Sure.
So many good draws in the deck. Cavern Harpy.
Cavern Harpy's solid.
So this lets him put he has to bounce the Shrieking Drake.
Yep. And we can't kill the Harpy with the Contagion.
It's now a twice as fast clock as well.
Right.
Unfortunately, he's not able to get both the Shrieking Drake and the Cavern Harpy into play at the same time for a 3 power attack. Since one will have to bounce the other at all times. Oh, but the Raven Familiar. Wow. Going to Value Town.
All right.
So now he's got access to.
Yeah, now we're just drawing all the value creatures. This is a
plus. Reflecting Pool. Tom should be so far ahead here that Brian has to use the Contagion on the Shrieking Drake at some point. And
yes,
that's not going to feel. Or I guess he can double Contagion the Raven Familiar. Maybe that was what he was supposed to do there in that window.
Yeah, potentially.
But Or maybe he doesn't have a black card. Maybe he has an artifact.
See, Contagion, yeah, -2, -1 counters. You get 2 of those, so yeah, it's a tight spot.
So yeah, Tom pays the Echo on Raven Familiar, and he'll attack for 4. Ooh, he's got the Unearth first. I think he's going to Unearth the Mesmeric.
That's a therapy. We're therapying.
Oh, that's the therapy. Oh,
yeah. So we get rid of Contagion. Okay. We just have a tower. Yeah, this game is over.
Like I said, he wasn't even able to play the Contagion in that window. So
yeah. And look here, we have the Alluren plus Cavern Harpy plus Raven Familiar. So
right. So if Tom wants to, he can pay 1 life to return this to his hand, which he's going to do, and then he's going to start using that to bounce his Raven Familiar, and he's going to be able to look at the top 3 cards of his deck 9 times or so for the amount of life.
Yeah, and Brian already knows sees the writing on the wall.
Looks like Brian's going to concede there. All he has in play is a Swamp and an Ivory Tower in hand. So very strong Cabal Therapy match. Cabal Therapy did a lot of work.
Yeah, it did. Wow.
And in the field full of combo decks, like you were talking about your experience in this league, there's a lot of combo decks, Cabal Therapy, and just it doesn't matter how fast your clock is. You just need a little bit of a clock, and you draw the right therapies, and you name the right cards. You should be able to pull out some wins because the combo decks are usually pretty fragile, and they're not the best drawing off the top. You have some, like you said, some of them have half their deck is good cards and half their deck is
right
much worse. And when Necropotence is one of your good cards, it's a lot stronger than your worst card, which is probably Cabal Ritual or something.
Yeah, it's been an interesting experience. Like, just like the version I'm playing is very storm. It is not, it is very fast. It does have the potential to win on turn 1. If you get the absolute bunkers draws.
Mm-hmm.
I've had 2 turn 2 kills in this league.
Okay.
With it, it does do a really good job of getting a turn 1 Necropotence. Which that's what these decks want to do, right? Like getting the Necropotence in play is step 1. Brian was never able to do that in this match, and that was a big contributing factor, I think, to the way this match played out for him. He kept his Necro hands, didn't get to play the Necro, and that's we saw how that affects how his game plays out. That's been a lot of my experience as well. When I get the Necro, things are great. When I don't, it's a lot more difficult.
Yeah, that's interesting because the one league I played with Necro in my deck, I've only played it once. I had the opposite experience. Every game I played Necro, I would just draw a bunch of cards and die. And every time I didn't draw Necro, I drew just all the cards I would have drawn with Necro anyway, and they were a bunch of zombie creatures. So it was like basically zombies with Necro, and it's like, oh, the zombies are great. The Necro part,
sure,
not very good.
Yeah,
but that was more of a deck building flaw than most decks would rather have Necropotence in play than a Shepherd of Rot.
Yes. Paying 1 life to play Shepherd of Rot is not quite the same thing, But if you, are drawing a bunch of cards to then like Tendrils your opponent, that's great. That's wonderful. And Tendrils, like especially if you're on that Necropotence Tendrils plan, whether you're just like dedicated Storm or this sort of like hybrid, suicide aggro sort of thing, Tendrils still supports your Necro plan. Because even like a mini Tendrils for 6 or for like 8 will let you just draw, some more cards and keep going. And if Brian had the opportunity to, maybe do Tendrils for like 6 or 8, those negators would have been significantly more threatening.
Right. Very, very strong. They if you do enough, they can just clean up the mess, and you don't even have to worry about what you sacrifice because they're dead.
Yep.
Well, congrats to Tom Basketball there for going 5-0, locking up his spot in the top 8. Likely be one of the top seeds, depending on how his last match goes. He is the one person that has beat me this league, so I'm hoping to make top 8 and get revenge. We had a very good match. And I would like to see that try that again. But otherwise, I think next week we'll be back with the last round.
Yep. We'll have let's see. We'll do our best to get players who are definitely playing for their win and in. I think both these undefeated players, the way that it works out, regardless of this match, I think they're both locked for top 8. I think their breakers are going to be good enough because we're going to have some number of X2s definitely make the top 8. And I think Brian dropping down to 4-1 is still going to have probably good enough tiebreakers to be locked for top 8 at 4-2 should he lose next round. But anyone who has been doing well, and like yourself included, you're playing for top 8 next week, that's for sure. Anyone who's X1 right now certainly playing for top 8. And then maybe if you're X2 right now, I don't know, sometimes breakers get weird in our leagues. You might be playing for 8th.
It could happen. There's only 39 players, so we were just over the threshold for the 6 rounds at 32. Yep. So definitely at least 1 or 2 4 and 2s will make the top 8 because we don't allow draws in this leagues. You've got all week to play a match. Why would you ever run out of time?
Right.
And so therefore no intentional draws either. The only draws we have is when somebody puts Animate Dead on a Road Gorger Dragon or plays a giant earthquake or something. So
yeah. I think that's how I got into the top 8 of Schools Out last year. I think, or the last league last year. I think I got in at 8th. Just that's how the breakers drew up. And
yeah, a lot of it changes. I think the last league I ended up in 9th, but I was pretty sure I was going to be 11th or 12th, and I jumped up enough. I jumped up almost enough.
Yeah, that's usually my experience too. Like, there's no way I'm going to make top 8, and then you're like, 9th, and you're like, wait, but that's too close. I'm not okay with that.
Yeah. I would rather have been 10th, 11th.
Absolutely
something else.
But yeah, so definitely tune in next week, Thursday, 8 p.m. Central for round 6, final round of the Swiss for this league, where we will figure out who is getting into our top 8, who's at least winning a spot more than likely into it. And then we will have the conclusion of the league the week after with our semifinals and finals. Quarterfinals are played off camera, but are usually shared. So if you want to watch those, hop into our Discord so you can catch when those players are playing. We usually play in our Discord, sometimes a whereby, any number of things. But then you can catch the conclusion of our top 4 on stream. But should be a lot of fun. Good luck to you, Ty, next week. Thanks for everyone who came and watched and hung out and chat with us. We will see you guys next week.